In this episode of Old School Monster Life, we finished putting that carburetor together that we tore apart 2 episodes ago. Okay, so there's a few things that people that try to work on Holleys that aren't real comfortable with them do, and it can really affect the way a carburetor works. One of them is the air bleed screws. They don't really understand what they're for, so if a cart doesn't run right, that's the first thing they twist. And really all that is the idle air mixture. That is how much air is going into the carburetor with it idling. It has no other bearing on how it runs. So what most people don't realize is there's gaskets around the idle air screws, and they're made out of cork, and sometimes they shrink. So when they do, it allows air to leak in. Instead of replacing the gaskets, they will just crank down on the screw. Well, you can tighten those screws hard enough that it distorts the seat, and that's what happened with this carburetor. One of the screws was tightened down so hard it actually put a ring in the end of the conical seat on the end of the screw. So that set screw, or idle mixture screw, is okay. I don't know if you can see it on this camera. That one's got a ring in it. So basically what that means is the end of the screw, which is supposed to be a perfect taper, has an indentation halfway in where it met the seat and was tightened down so hard it actually wrecked the taper on the screw. So we have to replace that now. But I have the new power valve and the new jets in it. The squirters, which is what the gas comes out of when you hit the throttle. It goes through the accelerator pump, and then it goes through the squirters, and that's the nozzle in the carburetor that actually squirts the gas in the top of the carburetor. They have different sizes of those for Holleys. And these were a little bit too big for the application, so I have to put smaller squirters in it. And again, that goes with, carburetor tuners have these parts, but Joe Average usually doesn't. So we're going to change the squirter sizes. I changed the jet sizes. I'm going to adjust the floats. I'm going to do a little bit more cleaning, and then we're going to put it all back together. Okay, something else I wanted to share with you. Holleys have a real nasty reputation for leaking. And back in the day when you got gaskets, they were brown or black, and over time they would shrink. Well, Holley came up with a solution. They have better gaskets. Now they're blue, and the blue gaskets are coated and they don't shrink. So here's a blue gasket. These are the old gaskets I took off, and they don't stick like the old gaskets do, and they come off pretty simply. And if I was at a track and in a pinch, I could reuse that gasket and it will probably seal. But they still have black gaskets for things like the float adjustment, which is here. There's a gasket that fits around the bottom of this nut. And then there's another gasket that fits in between the nut and the set screw. And they can leak. So the solution is a lot of the newer kits have these plastic gaskets, and they don't shrink and they don't leak. And you can even get the plastic gaskets on the bolts that hold the float bowl in. And those are the way to go because they never shrink, they never leak, and you can reuse them an infinite amount of time. So if you want to dial in your tune, you use those gaskets, and you can change it however many times you want, and you don't have to reuse or keep buying new gaskets for those pieces. So I just wanted to point that out. A lot of times that, you'll go on Amazon or Wish or, trying to cheap out on the kit. I'm telling you, don't do it. It's not worth the money. That brand new kit you just put in your carburetor isn't worth the $10 or $20 you paid for it. Go get a Holley brand kit, get a quick fuel kit, a major name brand that is serious into performance, so you can buy decent quality stuff. I've had it to where I tried to cheap out on the kit to save some money on the rebuild for somebody. Not only did I have to buy the cheap kit, I had to turn them right around and buy a good kit because the cheap kit was garbage. Instantly leaked, the needle and seat wouldn't seat. It's just, you get what you pay for, so go ahead and buy good stuff. Okay, one more important note. When you're reassembling a carburetor, under the squirter, there is a little pill-sized check valve. Sometimes it's a ball. The older ones have a ball bearing. The newer ones have a, looks like a roller bearing with a tapered seat on one end. Tapered seat goes in. The check ball, just drops in there. But make sure it's in there before you go putting the squirters in, because sometimes the squirters are a pain in the butt to get down in there and get the gaskets and everything lined up. And then you realize, like I just did, that the check valve is still on the workbench. Anyway, it's together correctly now. We have a main body, 2 float bowls, 2 metering blocks, and a base plate. All cleaned, retuned, and ready to reassemble. So let's get this party started. Okay, sun's going down. It is late, but we have a complete carburetor ready to bolt on Earthquake. So we're going to do that first thing in the morning, and we're going to see how this thing flies. But here it is all together. One complete carburetor, and all of the mistakes that I found are corrected. It's got the proper size jets for his engine combination. It's got the proper size squirters now. The accelerator pump adjustments are right. The float adjustments are right. The air bleed mixture screws, well, they're close. We'll have to set it when it's on the truck. But for the most part, should be ready to rock and roll. We're going to see how it runs tomorrow. Okay, so here is Earthquake's carburetor next to the one I just got done rebuilding for Mike. Now, most notable is the choke tower is missing off of my carburetor. And the other thing is I have a vacuum secondary single pump, but I put a metering block on the secondary side so I can change jet sizes more easily. And that's this piece here. Just like this. But it is a vacuum secondary single pump, no accelerator pump on the rear primary. I mean the rear secondary. And there's a bunch of changes in my carburetor, so it can run on all kinds of crazy angles, and it doesn't get affected when it bounces around. So that is probably the only Holley that is a true monster truck carburetor. Never mind the black. I run fat for a reason. It's just how I have the carburetor set up to work. It runs fat until it's wide open throttle, and then it cleans up. But anyway, we're going to stick this carburetor on Earthquake and fine tune it, so all Mike has to do when he gets it back is throw it on his truck and go. Alright, good stuff. Got the carburetor back together. It's on Earthquake. You see it runs. It should work pretty good on his. It's actually close to the tune I have on my carburetor. I could actually go down a couple sizes in the jets, but I think that's a fantastic base to start with, and then I guess I can walk them through tuning it from there. But it's really close. It idles nice. There's no stumbles in it. The engine was still cold, so it always has that hesitation off of idle. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Time to ship this thing. Get it out of here. So as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Drop some comments down below. Tell us what you think. And like always, we'll see you down the road.